And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome here to this edition of A Week in Baseball. And your host, Stephen Walters, and a special guest host, Michael Templeton. Michael, a student at the University of Alabama. Thank you for being here, Michael.
It's a pleasure to be here, Stephen. Glad you invited me on.
And so we got a lot to cover today, a lot of stuff happening. But before we get to it, we just a reminder to follow us on Facebook. We have a page. It's called A Week in Baseball. And on Twitter, at A Week in Baseball. And soon we will have a YouTube page where this very show will end up. So we just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. The New Year's coming up. Definitely exciting, not only for everybody, but also for baseball. A lot of things have been changing, and we will start with the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs signing Jason Hayward and Ben Zobrist to contracts, and we'll start with Jason Hayward. Jason signing an 8-year, $184 million contract with the Chicago Cubs, and even turned down more money from other teams. Reportedly, the Cardinals and the Nationals offered him more. And this is a guy who last year, 293, 13 home runs, 60 RBIs, and also stole 23 bases. Puts the ball in play, will steal about 15 to 25 bags. But, Michael, what's your take on this signing?
A lot of people go back and forth whether he's worth the $184 million that he was given over that 8 years. He's not quite the hitter that everybody gives him the credit for. He's going to play Gold Glove caliber defense. He's going to be an excellent base runner, anywhere from 15, 25 to 30 steals a year. Now, granted, he is 26 years old, so he has yet to enter the prime of his career. They're kind of paying more for his upside of what that could be, but they're definitely getting a high-quality player.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's one of those, as Tom Verducci said it perfectly. He's not an impact player, but he does a good job of being good in a lot of aspects. He's not the 30-100 guy that most guys would get paid that money for, but he's somebody who, like you said, plays good defense, runs the bases well, and really just brings a lot to your team, can really hit anywhere in the lineup, even though personally I would rather have him hit, 5th, 6th, or 2nd rather than leadoff or 3rd and 4th. But, I mean, the Cubs have a lot of options in their lineup going forward, and definitely will be a key part to that. And Ben Zobrist also signing with the Cubs, getting a 4-year, $56 million contract. And the 34-year-old utility man, just very valuable to the team he is on because he can play many positions. And last year, Michael, we saw him play third, second, and the corners. He's slated to play second base. Do you think that takes away any from his value, kind of being pigeonholed to one particular position?
I don't think it pigeonholes him in the sense that, yes, he's going to be their starting second baseman, but he's going to be able to bounce around, give guys days off. If some guy goes down, he's going to be able to step in. They still have Tommy LaStella who can step in and play second base if Zobrist needs to move. They have a lot of different moving pieces that they'll be able to fill out a formidable lineup every single day and be a very competitive team throughout the season. That being said, the 4 years on his contract, for me, is kind of a question mark because that's getting him to his age 38 season. And at that point, is he going to be worth the money he's being paid? I argue that it's not, but if the Cubs see him as being a potential influential piece the next couple of years, then it's a good move for them.
Yeah, and I think he's also one of those guys who can really have a good clubhouse impact, not only on the field. I mean, he's somebody he's played with Joe Madden before, so that's familiar territory, and he's a guy who he can help out Javier Baez, try to play multiple positions. He can help a lot of people on the field with their position. He can help Chris Bryant there at third. He can help Addison Russell at short a little. I know Zobrist has played a little short. So it's a guy where he'll give you a few years of production and maybe he'll drop off at the end of his contract, but somebody who definitely will be a good piece for the Cubs because of his versatility. And I know they paid a little more than some people thought, but I think it's definitely a good deal for the Cubs. And to other teams that will definitely contend in 2015, we move on to the San Francisco Giants, who signed two right-handers to contracts. First, Johnny Cueto signing a 5-year, $130 million contract. And that also includes an opt-out after 2 years. And the opt-out clause is really just being handed out like money or like ice cream cones. We'll go with that. I mean, it's almost just a given that a big pitcher is going to get one. What do you think about the opt-out clauses and that kind of whole phenomenon recently, Michael?
You've seen definitely the increase in those last couple years. Cueto getting this, obviously it looks like he might opt out if he has 2 good years with the Giants and hopefully sign for more money. Honestly, it's probably not the best thing for the game of baseball because you're not getting those guys who are being franchise players anymore, and you're getting guys who are solely going for money at this point. That being said, Cueto is a huge addition to this Giants team. I mean, he's going to be a 200-inning plus guy, which the Giants haven't had in a while. Actually, 3 of the last 4 years, the Giants have only had one guy go 200-plus innings besides Madison Bumgarner, and that was Matt Cain back in 2012.
Yeah, and speaking of the opt-out, I think somebody the other day brought it up on MLB Network. It'd be great to see where if the guy does opt out, then not let them be able to re-sign with the team that they were with, but also give the team draft pick compensation from the team who will sign him. Because now that would make sense because, like you said, people are going for money. It's like with Greinke. I mean, he got that opt-out. Everybody knew he was. He ends up getting, I think it was like 280-something million over 9 years. So I think the opt-outs need to be kind of held back more. Give them no trade clauses. Don't get them opt-outs. I mean, they're signing a contract. But I will say for the Giants, this could be beneficial because if you get 2 good years out of him, then you're off the hook for the rest of the money. So that could be a good option for them. And also, the Giants signed right-hander Jeff Samardzija to a 5-year, $90 million contract. And Samardzija had a rough go-around in 2015, posting the 3rd worst ERA in the majors and ended up finishing 11-13 with 214 innings pitched. So definitely the plus for Samardzija is his innings. Past 3 seasons, he's had 213 2/3 or more. So will definitely be another guy, as we talked about, only Matt Cain since 2012 besides Bumgarner. So putting in 3 guys throwing 200 innings, that definitely bolsters that rotation that just lost Tim Hudson. And it'll be definitely a better year for the Giants. And Michael, what are your thoughts there on Jeff Samardzija?
Yeah, that Giants front office was definitely paying for the upside there. Obviously, we know what Jeff Samardzija could do going back to the Cubs. Sadly, last year was obviously a fall off with the White Sox. But like you said, he's definitely going to be able to eat innings up. But however, he's not going to have that low ERA that you'd think $90 million over 5 years is probably going to get you. But he's definitely going to eat up those innings for you.
Yeah, and it's definitely just a kind of an effect of the whole pitching market these days. I mean, J.A. Happ getting $36 million over 3 years, and pitching's just getting more expensive these days. So I definitely think, at least because of his competitiveness, his character, here he's a great clubhouse guy, and just, really someone who wants to win day in and day out. And I know he hasn't had, I wouldn't even say the track record to get paid that much. I think that last year was his first year in double-digit wins, but definitely a guy who, as he continues to grow, he's still not a finished product. So these next few years, especially pitching in AT&T Park, being very pitcher-friendly, it'll definitely help him out. And lastly, for the moves of recent, the Seattle Mariners, a very busy team this offseason, have acquired Adam Lind and Wade Miley, both those separate trades. And we'll start with Adam Lind. And last year, the Mariners had Logan Morrison in the first base position, and Lomo gave them decent production, but not exactly what they expected. They ended up trading Logan Morrison, as we stated in a previous show, to the Rays, and getting Lind from the Brewers. I mean, he's a guy who hit 277, 20 home runs, 87 RBIs, will definitely be a big bat. Now, I'm not sure how he's going to play out in Safeco compared to Miller Park, but definitely another good piece for them. What are your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, there was a low-risk move here. Only sent 3 minor league pitchers. Not high pronounced prospects. So definitely Lynn's going to be fit into that lineup perfectly. You might see his average dip a little bit there. The home runs will go down a little bit, but overall he'll be a great addition to that lineup, and I can't wait to see what the Mariners are going to look like opening day.
Yeah, and speaking of changes, they also got Wade Miley, as we just said before, and Miley kind of had a frustrating 2015 with the Red Sox, 4.46 ERA, 11-11, but a positive, he posted another great year in terms of innings. He had 193 and 2/3, and he hasn't exactly had the same success that he had in 2012 and 2013, going 26 and 21 with a 3.44 ERA over there, but these past couple of years, he's really shown durability, which is really key in today's game. And when we see great pitchers, even like a Brett Anderson, who had the potential to be really good, just keep getting injured. So with Miley averaging 198 innings over the past 4 seasons, it definitely it'll help bolster that Mariners rotation. And Michael, what are your thoughts on the Mariners rotation?
The rotation's definitely going to be strong next year, starting off obviously with King Felix getting Iwakuma back, then throwing James Paxton out there, then taking some pressure off Taijuan Walker, maybe put Taijuan Walker as your 5th starter, and slotting in Miley at number 3, at number 4. That's definitely a very, very strong rotation. Obviously, you get the benefit of pitching in Safeco. It's just a really, really strong rotation at this point, and it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Yeah, and it'll definitely take some pressure off Taijuan Walker, I believe you alluded to, because, Taijuan had somewhat of a rough season last year, but being able to grow and not have as much pressure, being able to sign Hisashi Iwakuma after the Dodgers ended up getting out of that contract because of the physical, but Jerry DiPoto has done a great job this offseason of restructuring the team. He's added Steve Cishek, Miley, Evan Scribner, Nori Aoki, Clevenger, Dustin DeFreitas, Chris Iannetta, Leonis Martin, Joaquin Benoit, Nate Karn. So you go up and down the list, and to add those guys to Nelson Cruz, Kyle Seager, Felix Hernandez, it's definitely a lot better team than they had last year, and they got a lot more athletic. So it's definitely going to be a very fun team to watch in 2016. And a few guys still on the market. Michael, who do you think the next outfielder will be to go? We have Alex Gordon, Yoenis Cespedes, Justin Upton, Dexter Fowler, all yet to sign. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, the next outfielder I think to go is actually going to be Dexter Fowler, just because a lot of teams are being priced out of the market that Gordon, Cespedes, and Upton are commanding. Fowler obviously is a good, relatively young player, 29 years old. Had 17 home runs and 20 stolen bases for the Cubbies last year. I'd honestly look for the Cubbies to go back and re-sign him and move Hayward back to his natural position in right field, and so they can get their leadoff hitter. That being said, besides Fowler, I believe Cespedes will probably be the next to go. Had that huge offseason with the Mets. Playoffs with the Mets. I honestly think he might end up being back in a Mets uniform at a discounted rate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because the Mets just getting Alejandro De Aza a few days ago and really have kind of downplayed getting a big free agent. I know they don't want to spend that much on a guy, but this is an offense that, with the 2 big pieces in Daniel Murphy, who just signed with the Nationals for a 3-year contract, and Cespedes, those were 2 big offensive pieces for them. So not having them, that offense kind of goes back to where they were before. And they did get Neil Walker from the Pirates. That's a good upgrade, but I think the Mets do need to add an outfielder. Now, which outfielder, who knows? Because they've had talks, I believe, with a lot of these guys. And for me, the next guy to go is Alex Gordon. He's 31 years old, the Gold Glover, kind of a similar player to Hayward, obviously, 5 years older, but this is a guy last year, he had some injuries, but hit 271, 13 home runs, 48 RBIs, and in 2014, 19 home runs, 74 RBIs. So he's a guy who will play you great defense, and he'll hit a little bit. He's probably 270 average, probably still give you 15 home runs. So a guy who can do a lot on a baseball field and really help a pitching staff. And also on the trade market, Michael, you had an interesting idea of who would go next.
With all these guys getting priced out of teams' markets, a guy that has needed to be moved for the last couple of years now with a team that's been struggling and needs to enter rebuild mode would be the Colorado Rockies, and moving any of their plethora of starting outfielders, that being Carlos Gonzalez, Charlie Blackmon, Corey Dickerson, moving one of those players and getting some pitching prospects back to help that rotation out over in Coors Field.
Yeah, it'll definitely help them out. And from current players to former players, we move to the Hall of Fame debate, and the ballots were submitted last week, and a lot of names headlined the new class, including Ken Griffey Jr., Jim Edmonds, Trevor Hoffman, and Billy Wagner. And to start, I mean, Ken Griffey Jr., just what a great player. He's somebody who, over years and years, produced, especially early in his career. I know at the end he kind of got injured and, wasn't the player that we all expected him to be. But, I mean, a career 630 home runs, 284 average, debuted at the age of 19. And what I thought was really cool, got to play with his dad for a few years up there in Seattle. But the 13-time All-Star, 1997 AL MVP, 10-time Gold Glover, 7 Silver Sluggers. For me, Michael, he's a no-doubt first ballot Hall of Famer.
I definitely agree with that. Actually, looking at this list, we might have one of the largest Hall of Fame classes ever being inducted this year, with a plethora of quality talent that's in this vote. Then looking at another guy like Jim Edmonds, when you think of high-quality outfield defense, Jim Edmonds is the first name that comes to that list, along with Griffey. I mean, you sit back and you look at the 393 career home runs and the 284 average go along with that defense, with which he had 8 Gold Gloves playing out there in center field. Was a 4-time All-Star, won the Silver Slugger Award. I mean, it was just an all-around, just complete player.
Yeah, and he was very clutch in the postseason, if I remember correctly. A lot of big hits, and back to the defense. That was just so fun to watch him making the over-the-shoulder diving catches. To be honest, I think some of his catches are better than the Willie Mays catch. I know the Willie Mays catch was amazing, but for Edmonds to full-on dive out, going backwards, facing the fence, that's something that, I mean, that's just such a difficult catch. And day in and day out, it was fun watching him play the outfield, and he's one of the all-time greats in the outfield for me. And to another guy, Billy Wagner with 422 career saves, over 1,100 strikeouts, 2.31 career ERA, a 7-time All-Star, and in 1999 won the Roll AIDS Relief Man of the Year. And Billy's an interesting guy. I mean, I know he doesn't, is not up there. Well, he is up there, but not at the top of a saves list or anything, but somebody who was really dominant in the back end of the bullpen. And what are your thoughts on Billy Wagner, Michael?
I mean, definitely a guy who was very reliable coming out of the pen. When he stepped on the mound, teams thought the game was over. Just the kind of pitcher he was. Very commanding fastball. Would get on hitters quick. And then had a nice slider to go along with that, and was just an overall complete closer, and was just a dominant pitcher.
Definitely. And another dominant pitcher and closer on the mound, Trevor Hoffman. And Trevor compiling 601 saves and was the saves leader for a short while until Mariano Rivera took it over soon after. But this guy, drafted as a shortstop, ended up converting to a pitcher, and just that changeup was nasty. He ended up finishing 7-time All-Star, 2-time NL Roll-Aids Relief Man of the Year. And that was in 1998 and 06, and in 06 was the same year that he led the league in saves, twice the NL saves leader, and he ended up having his number retired with the Padres. And other guys who have some significant amount of votes in last year's ballot, they didn't quite make it, but guys who we think definitely could have a chance this year. Top 3 guys last year: Mike Piazza, Jeff Bagwell, and Tim Raines. Piazza missing just about 5% of the vote to get in. He had 69.9%. I mean, he's a guy who, I know there's some speculation about, the PEDs, but Michael, what are your thoughts on him?
I mean, Mike Piazza's just, when you think of the Mets, when they're iconic players, definitely Piazza's one of them. I mean, it's 16-year long career as a catcher, arguably probably the best hitting catcher we've seen in baseball. I mean, if you just go back over his iconic moments, definitely considering the remarkable home run he hit against the Braves back in 2001. I mean, just everybody in the nation knew about that home run. Just a great all-around player, and I hope he gets voted in this year.
Yeah, same here. I mean, one of those guys, 427 home runs as a catcher, leads all catchers. And a guy who, as Kevin Millar jokes around, he'll hit a homer and look around to see if it was foul, and it'll be an opposite field homer. I mean, just had so much power, and especially the opposite field too. So definitely somebody fun to watch. And Jeff Bagwell, another interesting guy, 55.7% of the vote, and he's a guy who, being teammates with Biggio and Biggio getting in, you would have thought that Bagwell would have gotten in, having, almost 450 just about home runs, 297 average, 408 OBP. He's a very interesting case because I think he'll get more of the vote this year, but especially with Biggio getting in, I think you have to put Bagwell, kind of in that same discussion. What do you think, Michael?
Definitely another guy who raises speculation about PED use, but Jeff Bagwell is definitely a great player. Sadly, I don't think he gets in for a couple years. I do see that he eventually does get voted in, but I think it's going to take him a couple years to get in.
Yeah, definitely. And somebody who is on his 9th year of the ballot, Tim Raines, last year getting 55%. And this is a guy, a true leadoff hitter, 294 average, 808 stolen bases, also had over 170 home runs, and somebody who, if Ricky Henderson wasn't as great as Ricky was around the same time, we would be talking about, man, Tim Raines all time. So he's somebody that I'm very surprised it's taken him that long to get voted in. I mean, 55% not bad, but 20% away from the 70% that you need. I'm just surprised that he hasn't gotten in. What do you think?
After, a 23-year career in the majors, and it was just a true definition of what a leadoff hitter was in the game. I mean, he walked more than he struck out. I mean, what more can you want out of a leadoff hitter? And just another guy who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he gets there, but with a 294 average and 808 stolen bases, it's hard to leave a guy like that out.
Yeah, and just a true player of the game, and always hustled, and once again, really fun to watch. And also, I think some guys who didn't get much of the vote. To be honest, I think Fred McGriff needs to kind of get a lot more of the vote. I mean, he's somebody who had 493 home runs, 5-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, and I thought he had one of the better careers during that time, but he was just overshadowed by some great players. I mean, if you look back, you have, Mark McGwire and, the whole home run chase and all that, and he just really got overshadowed. So I believe he got around 9% of the vote, which was just very surprising. So hopefully he gets more of the vote coming up this year.
Yeah, McGriff was definitely one of those players that, using a little hometown bias here, during that 90s stretch for the Braves, they wouldn't have been the team they were without him in the lineup. 493 home runs, a 19-year career with a 5-time All-Star and a 3-time Silver Slugger. It's just a player like that, you were surprised with the low percentage of votes that he received to get in.
Yeah, definitely, especially when you almost have 500 home runs, and it'll be interesting to see how he does this year. And so for some Braves off-season notes, we have some sad news to pass along. Long-time Braves coach and instructor Bobby Dews passed away on Saturday at the age of 76. And Dews, just a great baseball guy, one of those, never fulfilled his dreams of playing in the majors, but just well-respected by all players and somebody who really just had a love for the game, Michael.
Yeah, both Chipper Jones and Eddie Perez, after Bobby Dews sadly passed away, offered their condolences immediately and just commented on how well respected he was and how just influential they were in their lives outside of baseball, and just how high class this guy was, did everything the right way. It's just a sad loss for Braves country at this point.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys. He was still on the field out there. I mean, even just a few years ago, always hitting fungos. I mean, he hit more fungos to guys and, all over, the Braves years. He worked with guys like Freddie Freeman, Dale Murphy, and just really had a passion for the game that is unparalleled. And, being out there for so long, some people would have thought, oh, well, they're just doing that to keep him around, to be nice to him. But, I mean, they kept him around for a reason, and they had him on that coaching staff in spring training for a reason. So definitely one of the great baseball guys, and will definitely be missed in Braves country.
He was always a student of the game. Bobby Dews, just rest in peace. We're missing you here back down in Braves country. But moving on into some more positive news, just the amount of moves that the Braves have made this offseason, they have definitely improved their club going into this next season. It'll be fun to see them opening day roster, what that looks like.
Yeah, and some of the moves so far, I know we've talked about bringing back A.J. Przinsky, getting Gordon Beckhams. Those are two key moves, smaller contracts, but really guys who are great veteran presences. And recently, the Braves have signed former Braves prospect Tyler Flowers, and Tyler actually playing at Blessed Trinity Catholic High School here in Roswell, Georgia. Got drafted by the Braves and ended up being traded in the deal that sent Javier Vasquez to the White Sox. But getting him on a 2-year deal, $5.3 million if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be fun to see Tyler play in a Braves uniform. And Michael, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, definitely very cool bringing back A.J. Przinsky's old battery mate and Tyler Flowers to be able to not play A.J. Przinsky as much as we did last year. I know that was a big concern for the Braves coming into this offseason. That was something they instantly wanted to address. Also, the signing of utility man Emilio Bonifacio is definitely going to help lighten the load on a lot of these young players. He's another guy like Ben Zobrist, obviously not to the caliber of Ben Zobrist, but can play multiple positions, can hit multiple places in the lineup, and is definitely going to improve the club. That being said, you can't talk about the Braves offseason without talking about the two blockbuster deals that have happened. That being said, the biggest of the two with the Braves sending Shelby Miller to Arizona.
Yeah, and that was a big deal, Braves fans, and sending Shelby Miller over. Remember, a year ago we traded Jason Hayward and Jordan Walden to the Cardinals for Tyrell Jenkins, who is still a prospect in our system, as well as Shelby Miller. And this offseason, the Braves, doing a great job, especially knowing what they have and being able to flip Shelby. We flipped him and Gabe Spear to the Diamondbacks for Ender Inciarte, a Major League outfielder. Aaron Blair, who's a number 61 overall on MLB.com, top prospect list, and Dansby Swanson, who is also very high up there on the list. And Swanson coming in at number 10 on that list and coming in at number 1 here on the Braves list. And Swanson, the first overall pick in last year's draft, one of those guys that is definitely a future face of the franchise and will be very fun to watch here in Braves country. And Michael, you have something on Dansby. What you got?
Well, to start out with, the flip that the Braves were able to get for 1 year of Jason Hayward into all these talented young players is very impressive. That being said, Ender Inciarte going to come in and play a high-quality center field for us. Was a 5.3 WAR player last year, hit 303 at the top of the Diamondbacks lineup. Will instantly slide into the Braves lineup. He's going to hit anywhere from 5 to 10 home runs. He's definitely going to slide into that Braves lineup and definitely be a table setter, which the Braves were lacking last year. Aaron Blair, obviously, is another high prospect. Like we said, he looks to be hitting the big leagues around 2016 or opening day 2017. Will definitely be a back rotation starter to mid-rotation starter. Got a lot of quality pitches. Look for him in the Braves starting rotation in a few years. Going to Dansby Swanson, They're speculating that he could be the opening day in 2017 starting shortstop with Ozzy Albius at second base, and that middle infield combo will be very impressive to watch for years to come.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just very excited seeing this trade. I mean, for Braves country, especially Dansby, attending Marietta High School, growing up 10 minutes from where SunTrust Park will be constructed, and he's a guy, as you know, as I said before, he's a future face of the franchise. He's almost like a Buster Posey type guy, where he, just does everything the right way. He's carries himself the right way. He's a leader. He's a student of the game. So it'll be very fun to watch the Braves these next few seasons. Braves fans, don't give up hope, because, I mean, we got a lot of good stuff coming. So definitely be a, better 2016 than it was 2015. I don't think they're going to lose as many games, but we will see how they do in 2016. And we once again thank you for listening in to this winter break edition of A Week in Baseball. Once again, Michael, thank you for joining us today. We definitely enjoyed it, and best of luck this coming semester at Alabama.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. It was a pleasure.
And we once again want to remind you to follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter page is A Week in Baseball. On Facebook, our page is A Week in Baseball. And have a happy new year, everybody, and we will join you back in Milledgeville after the break.